Welcome everyone to a slight detour of a playthrough. Well, I don't know if I would call it a detour of another. Yeah, I have scheduled a few games that I wanted to play that kind of takes on like the visual novel stuff or the slow pacing stuff, where it's like text based or like picture based and stuff like that, and reading, like a lot of reading and stuff like that. But anyways, the point is, welcome to Ben Wander presents A Case of Distrust, or I'll just be calling it A Case of Distrust for the rest of the series, because the first part feels kind of weird to me. Not saying it's a bad thing to have the Ben Wander presents thing, but it's just, I feel like A Case of Distrust is where people will search the name much more, specifically for this. But welcome to the series. This is a game that I barely know too much about. I know it's investigations related, like it has a mystery and stuff like that. It's not fairly that long. It's like a 3-hour long game, so I'm not having any sort of like big like craziness to it. I think that I would want to go into it. If you're wondering, I did get this game through, I believe I got this game through Humble Choice, when it came around that time. And I realized when I was looking through my Steam library, I was like, wait, I remember I wanted to try this, and so here I am today doing it. There's sadly no way to adjust the music on my side, so if you hear it through my headphones, I do apologize that, because it's super loud, but there's no settings to change the audio. I only can change the text size, which is barely a thing, and full window and stuff like that are the only things I could do for sure. So let's start it right away. I want to get into this. This is not going to be an hour. This is not going to be a first episode hour long. It will be just like a 30 minutes or something like that. 40 minutes at max, probably. I awoke in my desk chair. Sorry, I'm trying to read through this because I think there's no reading, like there's no audio from a person. It's just me literally reading it. Oh, I have to actually click on that. Across from me were his piercing amber eyes. Wait, is our main character a girl or a guy? I just realized that. I'll just read it like a guy, I guess, for now, and then I'll change it if I have to. This is kind of like me playing like some of the other series that I've been playing, like the Silver Case or the 25th Ward, where I had to change the voice because I realized our character isn't that character we were expecting it to be, I guess. They surprised me at first, but I should have known he'd be there. I stretched and said, mid-yawn. Not very nice to sneak into a sleeping... Oh, there's a woman. Okay, then. Hey. Okay, then I can change the whole thing. I woke in my desk chair. Across from me were his piercing amber eyes. They surprised me at first, but I should have known he'd be there. I stretched and said, mid-yawn. Not very nice to sneak into a sleeping woman's apartment. But his stare just continued. I guess I'll laugh at this glare, I guess. I feel like it would be funny to just laugh at the guy, rather than, because the guy's making it awkward. I laughed at this glare. I'd seen San Francisco's shrewd thugs, hardened cops, and deadly politicians, but none could ever match that gaze. I knew I didn't have what he wanted. Reaching into my coat, I took out my knife and flicked it open. I held the knife... Yeah, I'll probably hold the knife steady. I held the knife steady while staring back at him. Look, I said, nodding towards the desk. That's all there is. Take it or leave it. But a detective knows when she's beat. And I knew then. He wanted to search the place, and that's what he would do. I sighed, knowing my weakness for his type. All right, I said. Let's look. He let out a gleeful meow in victory. It's a cat. God dang it. I thought it was a human. I cut a piece of my apple that the cat had rejected. Always a sore winner, I jabbed. But I was smiling too, because I was telling the truth. There was absolutely no other food in my apartment. I honestly feel like this is like... This hook is interesting, because it's like... It's hooking you in with like zero expectation. And I also didn't expect that. It's an interesting like 1-2 like punchline for me. It's just like the kicker for like the story introduction. That's really nice. I like it. It's a really funny joke to it. The cat often drops by to scavenge. He made a lot of noise when he thought I was holding out on him. But right now, the place was clean empty. No food anywhere. I had to prove it to him. Do I... Oh, I have, like... Oh, I see. I have to highlight the areas. Okay. Yeah, let's look at the bird. I kept a small statue underneath the side of the table. It had been police evidence in a crime, and its owner hadn't wanted it back. I took a shrine to it, so I snagged it for myself on my way out of the department. So she's basically... Our character is basically an ex-police officer. And I also love the hell out of this UI. This UI is really cool. Like, you don't have to really think about highlighting some stuff. It's up to the player to kind of find it. I mean, it is partially bad because it's like, what the hell am I looking for? Like, what's the answer to move forward kind of thing. But in general, I think it's exploring and kind of like figuring it out for yourself kind of thing. Like a point and click kind of style, which is really amazing. I like. And this is like very subtle. It's like, it's relying on the silhouette of the shape to make it like interesting to me. Packaged cigarettes were the latest trend, but I still preferred to roll my own. The ashtray was evidence that it was a practiced skill. I suppose I had a lot of free time back then. The lamp had belonged to my Uncle Louis. He'd been an SFPD officer, so she's an ex-San Francisco police officer. Okay. One who argued policewomen could be good detectives, even while the others jeered at me. I knew he'd been right, but my current workload didn't help the claim. I tried not to. I don't know Louis that well, so I'm gonna say I'm thinking about him. I thought about Louis more often than I wanted. I was lousy at handling the emotions behind those thoughts. Okay. Paperwork. I had taken copies of old murder cases from SFPD records when I left. I loved reading through them, even though my own contributions were minimal. At that time, I longed for those types of jobs. The truth was, any work was hard to find for a female detective. Interesting. Another book. My old notebook. Now filled to the brim, I wrote everything down, even the minor details. Never know what can be useful. What is the second half? The second half had my current bunk, adultery cases, the only things I'd gotten hired for. Whatever my findings, my employers often refused to believe me. It was thankless work, but even that was hard to come by. Does the cat have anything new to say? Oh, I can talk to the cat. Okay, I won't read that yet. I'm gonna hold that off for a little bit. Excuse me. A newspaper was flopped on the floor. Its headline about the death of Lenin, leader of the Red Menace, sweeping Russia. It seems like the Bolsheviks had lost their head. Oh, so this is back in the 1950s, 1940s? Like near the end of 1940s for sure. Because no, not 1940s. It might be 1950s or so. 1950s or something. Because I don't remember if it's true, but I believe Lenin was near the end of World War that he passed, I believe. And I remember the Bolsheviks by name, but I don't remember exactly what they did. But I know that Lenin led the Bolsheviks, which resulted in the Russian Revolution and stuff like that, I think, if I recall. I might be wrong. But it's basically describing the time period of where this game takes place, which is also interesting, that they're leaving hints of what it is. The regular white icebox, tinged yellow with age, half blocked to the kitchen doorway. My income rarely kept much stocked in it, and right now, it was empty. Anything else besides the cat? I just want to make sure I caught everything besides the cat and the door. I know the door is probably to lead forward in the story. The cat had waltzed into my apartment a few years ago. He kept coming back, though there was rarely a morsel to eat. He'd continue his loud meowing until I proved to him the place was empty of food. Oh, I can talk to the cat. It doesn't matter how doe-eyed you are, cutie pie. We've got no food around, I told him. He licked his chops and looked at me. Apparently he still didn't believe that. I needed to contradict him somehow, to show him something in the apartment that would prove it was empty of food. Oh, so this is the mechanic of contradicting the stuff. There were no cases just then, but the cat was mewing and needed attention. I had to contradict the cat by first talking to him, then pointing to a piece of evidence in my notebook that proved the apartment was empty of food. I would say the ice box, because that's one of the big... It's like a refrigerator, isn't it? And then statements. Man, this is a really cool game with, like, the whole, like, spiel. I've played very few detective-based games. I really need to play more of them sometimes. I feel like they're always an interesting, unique aspect of puzzle solving in a weird way. I have actually made a game in school, during my school time, with which was to make a game called Psychic Detective, where the detective has a psychic ability, so it becomes much more unique than just a simple point and click or reading stuff. But obviously that didn't do... It wasn't fully, like, achieved for what I wanted from it. But, I mean, overall, I think that detective games are really unique in its own right. I've played only, like, Phoenix Wright. That's another detective game that I feel like the series, of course, with the other spin-offs with, like, Edgeworth and stuff like that. That's one of the detective games I've played. Avery Attorney I've played also on my own, which I'll probably play in the future for the channel if I choose to, because I think that's a little bit rougher of a case detective thing. But this one is very straightforward, and I like this. This being straightforward makes it really, really interesting. Alright, I'm going to present the icebox, though. Use this to contradict. I opened the icebox to the cat, so the cat could see inside. Empty, I told him. The cat looked quizzically at the open door, then back at me. Sorry, fella. There's no grub in there for me either. He stared at me with eyes as disappointed as I felt. Those big yellow always got to my soul. Thoughts on my family filled my head. My sister, I guess? Is her sister around? Oh, Muriel. The name. When I hear Muriel, I always keep thinking about Courage the Cowardly Dog. Oh no, Muriel. What can I ever do without her? Just thinking of Courage just saying that. My sister Muriel had sent a letter with an update to her life in Chicago. She and her husband had just purchased a new home outside the bluster of the city. Their 3 young children were looking forward to the move. I've never told Muriel, but those letters kept me going. I want to be like the heartfelt detective because there's some soul in it, I feel like. I'd never told Muriel, but those letters kept me going. Hearing about my family, however remote, helped me cope with the isolation I was feeling. I refused to accept it myself back then, but perhaps Muriel had known anyway. My sister had the ordinary lifestyle that I had rejected. I'd wanted to save myself, I guess. I feel like that would be the case. From the monotony of traditional marriage, to prove that a woman could do more than her child-bearing duty. Not that I was helping advance that cause with the types of cases coming my way. My mind spiraled into the usual series of questions. Have I even impacted the women's movement? Had I made any change in society at all? Was my plotting career worth losing traditional happiness? What was the point in life I had chosen? A loud meow from the cat snapped my thoughts back into the moment. I took a deep breath and grinned back at him. Guess you can scram now, I said. Nobody's going to come knocking with food for you, fella. Alright. Jesus. There, immediately came a banging on the front door. Beyond the nuance, this cat was psychic too. You ordered out? I asked him. Alright, I opened the door. Oh, Jesus. That was a really cool transition. In the doorway was a regrettably familiar face of Connor Green. I would say I stared at him. A hired hand for whomever needed a job done. But Green snitched whenever he was put in a squeeze. Working the beats, I remembered that all too well. Remarkably, the underground had been blind to it. But Green wasn't particularly assiduous. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Assiduous. I was certain the criminal ranks would eventually plug him. He looked at me through the doorway with a coy smile. Well, ain't you gonna invite me inside? I started to close the door. I love this. I'm not sure if this is it's in San Francisco, so I'm gonna probably give him the southern accent a little bit, but a little bit of like whatever I just did just now. So I'll do that. I started to close the door, but he stuck out a foot to stop me. Hey now, he chided. Foul way to treat a customer, Malone. So that was his ankle. Hiring me as a detective, I wondered what a bootlegger would need with a private eye. But he answered without my prompt. I'll make this quick. I can't take this to the hog house where the pigs would laugh at me. The other dicks just aren't as tempting. His grin widened. Thought this was gonna be quick, I said. Oh no, thought this was quick. It was gonna be quick, I said. And I started rolling a cigarette. Okay, I thought this line was actually the guy for some reason. I apologize for that. It's hard for me to know or distinguish it. I think maybe the best way to probably highlight it differently would have probably been colored differently, I guess. But I think the style of it is enough to just kind of make me not think about it. Or like I have to read it thoroughly to get the context before changing it quickly. It wasn't quick, and I had already rolled and lighted a second smoke when Green finally finished the story. I noted the important bits in my book. It had started with a letter, slipped under his door in a white envelope. The envelope contained a single typewritten leaf, which he handed to me. It read, "End your game, or we'll end you." It had no surprise, instead ending with only a small scribble in the bottom right corner that resembled a black hand. Green had a lead on a new rum running scheme, a connection from Vancouver. Oh, so it came in from Canada. He'd given a sample to Tiny Paul, the gangster who ran the Tin Spoon Speakeasy, for Moss Bob Jerry Ferry. They'd agreed to buy in for more. Green surmised the letter was about his rum running. He suspected Redstone Stable, another bootlegger, for sending the letter. He told me that Stable ran a barbershop during the day and gave me the address. Green needed to know who the threat was from. He'd get Paul's gang to deal with them and continue his scheme to get rich. If I go snooping myself, he concluded, folks see I'm not trusting people. No trusting leads to no customers. Okay, let me reread this because this is hard to read because I was having to be cut off by he concluded. If I go snooping myself, folks see I'm not trusting people. No trust leads to no customers, and I need to play it low key, which is where you come in. I raised my eyebrow and stared at him through the cigarette smoke. Something in his yarn was still twisted. He must have noticed my reticence, because he said, I worked closely with Lewis. I'm sure he'd want to protect me as much as any other victim. My uncle had put me on the force. I finally accepted Lewis's death. I was still searching for answers. I guess I don't know too much about Lewis's situation, so it's hard for me to make these choices that are important to the story of the character, our character. I don't know the past that well enough. Like, I only know that he's a police officer of the FPD, but, like, that's it. And we're just kind of, like, looking up to him almost. I'll just say that it's accepting the death, I guess. I had finally accepted Lewis's death. It was the only conclusion possible. He had taken on his own life. He was the only officer who'd let me walk the beats, or do more at crime scenes than comfort a widow. He'd been obsessed with helping victims and bringing justice to those beyond salvation. I'd quit the SFPD and started my own practice, taking his ethos to heart. Was Green worth my time? Would he be worth Lewis? Green had tipped off my uncle in a few cases. I wondered if that was enough to warrant my protection. Before I could think past my headache, he threw a bill in my lap. Keep the C-note as a retainer. And don't worry about getting in touch. I'll find you later in for a chat. He turned down the hallway, and I let him go. If he was willing to give me $100 with no commitment, I wouldn't stop him. Okay. I turned back to the apartment, still confused about the whole story. My headache wasn't helping either. Whenever I lacked clarity, a trip to Southern Coffee was usually the cure. Okay. Okay, so this is all... Yeah, this is the only information I got about Lewis, honestly. So it's, like, hard for me to kind of do anything else. We just talked to the cat again. The cat had waltzed in my apartment. I already read that. Okay, cool. So there's nothing new besides the door, I'm assuming, now at this point. So we're going to have to take our leave here. I've mounted a gold plate on the outside that read PC Malone, Private Investigator. Time to leave. I love the transitions in this game. This is a really cool transition. Also, let me check the notes. I actually haven't checked the notes all this time. Evidence, Green's letter, statements, got a threatening letter, has a new bottle bootlegging scheme. I'm guessing bootlegging is just like illegally smuggling the alcohol, which isn't... I don't feel like that crime is that high for the time of like this particular story. Oh, is Lenin a 1920s, 1930s kind of event? Because this prohibition could be the case. I actually don't know because I'm lost in the histories of like of the world still a little bit, because I know it's in the 19-somethings, but it's like if bootlegging is a thing, then that means and alcohol is banned, then the prohibition is still probably strong. But I don't remember the prohibition being that crazy. So this could be taking place in the 1920s. I might be right. I might be wrong in the case of what I said earlier. Then Connor Green had just given me a case that involved his bootlegging. I still wasn't sure if it was worth my time. I decided to head to Southern Coffee to consult with Frankie. Okay, so that would be whatever it is. There was only one place I needed to go to clear my head. Southern Coffee. Southern Coffee was a basement dive. It wasn't modern, hip, or even busy. And it was my favorite place to down some paint. Wow, that's a weird line that I've heard of. Down some paint. Especially in the company of the best bartender in the world. Or in the city. Oh, there's my car. Yeah, I think this is taking place in the 1920s. I stepped into the taxi and rocked into a comfortable position on the back seat. I thought about starting a chat with the driver. I guess I'll talk, because I need to understand the world a little bit more, I think. We talked about politics, but I don't remember exactly what about. Not all my conversations with cab drivers were memorable. Okay, so there's nothing interesting about the cab driver's conversation. Southern Coffee was an automat diner. Ethel Burgess, the lone waitress, was friendly to help with any inquiry. Of course, it was if you winked at her right, she'd show you the way to the downstairs toilet, where Frankie played bathroom attendant. Southern Coffee had the distinct feeling of home. The familiar smell of mold in that old basement was enough to put a grin on my face. Okay, so there's a few things. I can probably talk to him, but I'm gonna examine everything around here. Frankie had a bond with that old shaker at the end of the bar. I was surprised he hadn't named it. He could sling a mean drink, though he'd only use the good liquor if he liked you. Frankie liked me. I grabbed the wine bottle on the bar and examined this label. It featured a picture of the grapes and words, "Sacramental use only." Frankie looked at me with a spark in his eye. "Go ahead," he said. "Give it a swig." No, don't. Oh, okay, well, I guess I couldn't examine the rest of the scenery, I guess. I shook my head. Too much. He scoffed and grabbed the bottle from me and turning it through his hand. "I suppose you only like that bootleg paint." Oh, so paint is like alcohol, I'm guessing? "Well, I'll have you know what rabbits charge more than a nickel for this beauty. Only this type of Napa wine is made from the Zinfandel grape." My voice is gonna die from that. "It has a unique aroma." I'd been trying to learn more about wines. Seems everyone knew their stuff but me. I noted that Frankie had said about the origin of the grape as he sat the bottle back on the bar. Since when did you know about grapes? Since when did you know about grapes? I chided. Frankie let out a bellied laugh. Some of these grapes are older than you, Malone, and I've known about them since I was a small tot. It's why I'm so good at my job, you know? Frankie sighed. Too bad folks can't taste them. That woman's leagues is the devil. Which choice would I want to make for this? I guess this one? The Christian Temperance Union? The Women's Christian Temperance Union was now under feminist Frances Willard, a positive force for the suffrage of women. But her staunch support of prohibition, along with the union's massive political clout, irked the very wet San Franciscan public, and she particularly wasn't popular with the bartenders. Makes sense, I guess. Take a seat, he said. I'll make you something else. Orator. Pitcher? I'll take pitcher. I'm wondering what this pitcher is. He'd been a decent pitcher for the Seals a few decades earlier. Sometimes he'd speak wistfully of those days, but his arms were much more used to slinging bottles now. I sat at the bar. You got the spooks, PC. Oh no, that's what he's saying. Okay. You got the spooks, PC? He asked. You're warned as a catcher's mitt. I suppose my exhaustion showed. I won $100 for nothing, and I can't let it go. I told Frankie about the case, the threatening letter sent to Connor Green, how he assumed it was related to his bootlegging and his suspicions of Redstone Stable. The story took longer than I'd wanted. Frankie showed genuine interest by asking many questions. When I finished, he threw me the whiskey sour he's been stirring. I took a large gulp and gave a sigh as thanks. Yeah, this is the bartender. Well, Green's case is better than most of what you're given, he said with some enthusiasm. At least it's not much of an adultery bunk. Sure, I replied, but I started with a goal in mind. What's the point in helping a man like Green? Frankie clicked his tongue on his teeth. Lawyer or priest, why does it matter? Let me ask you, are the clients you have now the types you want to help? I admitted they weren't. I told him that I wanted more than my detecting life. Wanted more from my detecting life. It could be that Green's case shoots your career forward, Malone. I sighed and stared down at my drink. But my daze was interrupted by the basement door opening, then slamming shut. Oh geez, this lady. A small blustering woman began marching towards me. She was wearing a light blue cloche hat with a gray ribbon tilted back on her head, a scarf of a familiar blue draped around her neck, but I was startled by what she wore under it, a gray trench coat that looked too large for her frame. It was exactly like that one that had belonged to Lewis. Oh. It's some lady with probably connections to her uncle, her deceased uncle. She hurled insults at me a while. All I could do was sit and take it until she ran out of gas and started breathing heavily. I set my drink down on the bar and looked her into the eyes. I inserted a hello. I'm Phyllis Malone. How can I help you? Accompanied by my smile, as genuine as I could muster, that knocked her off balance. She stumbled over her next few words, and I added, you are? The flame returned to her eyes. Between clenched teeth, she hissed, I'm the wife of that bum who sneaks into your bed. What? I'm the wife of that bum who sneaks into your bed. I asked, the cat? But humor wasn't her angle, and she launched into another poetic stanza. And he just left your sty this morning, she finally ended. And that was when I gathered she was Connor Green's wife. Wow, his wife is so, like, ultimately assuming things. Mrs. Green, I'm a PI, not a homewrecker, and I don't think your husband in his line of business would want to bet a dick anyway. Anyhow. Her look was pure incredulity. Incredulity. Can't pronounce that word. Incredulity. A woman in this line of work? She questioned. I don't believe it. I guess I can prove it. With an evidence? Oh shoot, do I even... I guess a notebook, I guess? My old notebook filled with the brim. I wrote everything down, even the minor details. I guess I can show her the book. I opened my notebook and flipped through its pages. You see, Mrs. Green? This is what I do. There's not much more I can show you to prove it. It still took more time to coaxing for her to believe me, but eventually she came around. She seemed grateful I explained it to her. Apparently she had seen her husband leave my apartment and distraught. She had followed me all the way to Frankie's basement and decided to confront me. I suppose I lost my head around after what I thought I'd seen, she said, and she began to cry. Frankie, ever chivalrous to a dimpled girl, came around the bar and held her up. Is Frankie the bartender? I can't remember for some reason. Names are hard for me. Now that's alright, Mrs. Green. Why don't I hail you to a cab and send you back home? She agreed, and they walked together up the stairs. When Frankie returned, I said to him, "You turned night real quick." He snorted with a laugh. "Oh, hell. We can't have that siren in here, with a torturer yelling like that. Every street bugger would have come to her rescue." Mrs. Green is a torch singer. Anyways. Actually, I'm going to probably call it for now. I know it's a weird place to end it here, I guess, I feel like. But I want to take the time to kind of give myself a break, I guess, in a sense. I wonder how you exit from this. I have not seen... Oh, you can... Okay. And then would it resume to that same... Oh, it does. Okay, that's really cool. I love the transitions of this game. It's really well done, I would say. The UI. Alright, anyways. Thank you guys for watching. Next episode, we'll continue with that statement with what they're going to discuss about who Mrs. Green is. And then we'll figure out further about this case, but also to kind of wander through the whole story and all of that jazz, and try to make sure to kind of like get to know the world a little bit more and the case as well. But yeah, we'll take our time to get through this whole thing, and hopefully we'll see where this all kind of comes together, and kind of like see where it takes us instead. Like, what's the journey for this? But otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys in the next episode or another video minds, and hope you guys have a great, amazing day, week, night, or whenever watching this. And there will be more of A Case of Distrust next time around. So otherwise, Roz, out.